Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank God for his continued blessings of strength and guidance, and to state that without him, nothing that I have done and accomplished would have been possible. I want to also specially recognize and commend my family, my workers and constituents of St. Ann Northeast, and of course, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition for his continued faith in me as we work together to bring about real and substantive change for the betterment of Jamaica, land we love. I also want to pay tribute to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who have also provided and continue to provide that critical support during my now 13 years in political representation. Mr. Speaker, I also want to put on record my thanks to the councillors of Northeast St. Ann, Councillor Dallas Dickinson, Councillor Delroy Giscombe. The Mayor of St. Ann's Bay is from St. Ann Northeast, His Worship, Mr. Desmond Gilmore, and Dr. Rohan Williams. The opposition would like to put on record our sincere appreciation to Ms. Carol Guntley Brady, the first female head of the Jamaica Tourist Board, who retired recently. We wish her well in all her future endeavors. I want to also commend the contribution of Mr. John Lynch, outgoing Director of Tourism, as well as Mrs. Evelyn Smith, outgoing President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. And, Mr. Speaker, at this time, we want to offer condolences to the family of Mr. Clive Taff, who passed recently, the former Deputy Director of Tourism. Mr. Speaker, I must acknowledge my government counterpart, the Minister of Tourism, Dr. Wickham McNeil, and thank him for his accommodating engagement. The constituency of St. Ann Northeast has its own challenges and peculiarities like any other constituency. The lack of affordable housing solutions continue to plague the constituency. Many persons continue to live in informal settlements, even though they are contributors to the National Housing Trust. Mr. Speaker, water lockouts have become a constant feature, even in the urban centers of Otrius and St. Ann's Bay. And the St. Ann National Water Commission continues to be inept, uncaring, and unresponsive. And as we speak, many communities are without water, Mr. Speaker. This is the agency that says that water is life, and they are depriving the people in these communities of life. The cry of bad roads is loud and persistent. The condition of some of the roads is deplorable. And despite my continued appeals to the relevant ministers, they have gone unheeded, much to the discomfort and peril of the motoring public and the pedestrians. Mr. Speaker, we hope to see some improvement in the road network, particularly the main arteries from Limehall to St. Ann's Bay is in need of attention. The truck route from Davistown through to Jacks Hall is also in need of attention. And we just want to point out, and there are many breakaways that need to be looked at. Mr. Speaker, crime continues to haunt us nationally, and St. Ann Northeast has been experiencing a spike in murders. And this is despite the efforts of the hard-working members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. I'm publicly appealing to the Minister of National Security to provide any additional resources that he can to assist in tackling the scourge of crime that is threatening to take over the constituency. Through the Constituency Development Fund, there have been repairs to schools. We have sponsored their sponsorship of football clubs and competitions, a lot of social intervention programs, educational assistance, and road rehabilitation. Mr. Speaker, we continue to respond to the needs of the people in spite of the constraints that we face. I now turn to tourism and cruise shipping. I think that all of us will agree that the tourism and cruise shipping sector is crucial to Jamaica's success. and I'm delighted at the opportunity to play my role in ensuring that this critical sector is steered into safe waters. I am thankful that most of my life has been spent in St. Ann, close to the hub of tourism activity. And Otrius, as you all know, is heavily dependent on tourism and ranks as one of the region's premier tourist destinations. Mr. Speaker, I am therefore well aware of the factors that positively and negatively impact our tourism sector. The hallmark of leadership in the tourism sector is the capacity to articulate a vision, get key stakeholders to embrace that vision, and work feverishly to make that vision a reality. The tourism sector under the current administration is yet to see a clearly articulated, cohesive, and credible vision. A clearly articulated vision, Mr. Speaker, facilitates meaningful partnerships among stakeholders and gives them a precise sense as to how they fit into the scheme of things. This is not the case at present. I'm forced to arrive at this conclusion about our tourism industry as we still have a tremendous amount of work to do in getting our tourism sector to achieve greater levels of success. There are just simply too many people who are on the outside looking in who are getting little or no benefit from this industry. Without clearly established targets and a clearly articulated vision, Mr. Speaker, the minister is merely left to hobble along with no sense as to where we are going and how we are going to get there. I must say respectfully that I'm deeply concerned about the sometimes lackluster approach taken to developing our tourism industry. Let us be frank, Mr. Speaker. The average increase in arrivals during the 4 years of the JLP administration, ably led by the then tourism minister, was 80,000 per year. Let us not forget, Mr. Speaker, that the JLP administration was in the throes of the 2008 global economic crisis, which saw tourism sectors in neighboring countries declining significantly. The sector had a vision at the time. The sector had a vision at the time and had leadership that knew where they were going and were clear as to the steps to be taken in getting there. By the time our administration demitted office in 2011, we were just about 40,000 shy of the 2 million stopover arrivals mark. While the administration left arrivals at 1.96 million stopover visitors, this administration has just managed to hit the 2 million mark. In effect, Mr. Speaker, it has taken this administration all of 2 years to achieve what we achieved in half a year while we were in office. We must also note, Mr. Speaker, that while we left earnings at $2.011 billion US in 2011, last year earnings declined to US $1.9 billion. As we further examine the quantitative performance of the tourism sector, Mr. Speaker, it is important to consider where Jamaica fits into the global scheme of things. In terms of a regional analysis, Jamaica's 2013 stopover arrivals growth rate has fallen behind the Caribbean's average of 1.8%, landing at 1.1. On the other hand, Aruba is up 8.3%, the Cayman Islands is up 7.4%, and Belize is up at 6.1%. Mr. Speaker, this administration is underperforming at a time when it should be actually performing. After all, there is no global crisis monster hovering over them at this time. We can do much better than this, but we must get our act together. Mr. Speaker, I endorse a call by outgoing Director of Tourism, Mr. John Lynch, that we should now set our sights on 4 million stopover visitors per annum. What I find most profound, if not disturbing, however, is that this talk of 4 million stopover visitor arrivals is not being touted or championed by the minister himself. It is coming from somebody who is leaving. The truth is, we have heard nothing to suggest that 4 million stopover arrival is an actual goal being targeted by the ministry. So while we have heard a tidbit mention of 4 million stopover arrivals, this is not predicated on any definitive and credible policy by the Ministry of Tourism. The Dominican Republic, for example, has 4.5 million stopover visitor arrivals per annum, while Cuba has approximately 3 million. They have managed to do it. Mr. Speaker, so should we. To highlight the extent to which a sector is underperforming, I draw your attention to the clever manner in which performance in the industry is now being reported. Mr. Speaker, tourism interests know fully well that if our winter season is not vibrant and robust in terms of growth, we aren't cutting it. We have to have an excellent winter season to go through any summer and fall. The winter season is that period during which rates are most lucrative. Average daily rates are at their best during the winter season and are usually much higher in yield than that of any other period during the calendar year. In terms of sheer numbers, it is the winter season that usually gives us bang for buck. So the 4% growth this past winter that many are quick to gloat about, especially against the backdrop of a very low base as per winter 2012-2013, is by no means flattering. Winter is simply too important a period for us to be dropping the ball in the way we have been. If that were not enough, Mr. Speaker, I must point out that we have also been underperforming as it relates to having a real and substantive impact on the lives of our people in our main tourism centers. The tourism pie is huge. We have a duty, however, to ensure that ordinary Jamaicans are not being deprived of their slice of the pie. Mr. Speaker, some of them believe that they are not even getting the crumbs from the pie. Mr. Speaker, I've listed just a few of the critical matters that the Minister of Tourism must move to address with a sense of urgency. I want to talk about cruise shipping. Cruise shipping, for the most part, has been treated like the stepchild of the sector. This is regrettable, as it offers multiple opportunities for growth. Therefore, the Minister must move to ensure that we not only increase cruise arrivals, but that we effectively spread the benefits across the ports so as to increase the benefits for the people of Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, Jamaica's cruise ship arrivals last year were down by 4% over 2012. Broken down, we see where Orchrius was down by 3.2% and Montego Bay down by a whopping 29.8%. Falmouth, on the other hand, registered an increase of 10%. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, it is noteworthy that the Falmouth cruise port welcomed nearly half of the 1.2 million cruise visitors last year. While we're pleased with the growth in Falmouth, we can do much better there too. I am seriously concerned about the way in which our cruise shipping sector is being managed. Mr. Speaker, it has now come to my attention that Carnival Breeze, one of the larger ships built for Carnival cruises, as of May 2015, will no longer call on Orchrius. They are instead going to go to Falmouth. We are looking at a fall-off of approximately 100,000 visitors per annum, and this is just for Orchrius alone. We cannot afford for this to happen. Our tourism product cannot afford this kind of dislocation. Mr. Speaker, businesses will close, people will lose their jobs. Orchrius and Montego Bay cannot be allowed to suffer devastating fall-offs in cruise ship traffic. I call on the Minister to immediately put together a multi-stakeholder team to work towards ensuring that we boost the berthing capacity and increase cruise ship arrivals. We effectively balance the cruise ship traffic spread across the resort towns, and to include Port Antonio, that has a massive potential for exclusive boutique tourism. And also that we make our resort towns more attractive and tourist-friendly so as to attract more visitors to disembark and spend much-needed foreign exchange. Mr. Speaker, I again urge the Minister of the importance of moving now as we face a crisis on our hands if current trends continue. Mr. Speaker, the window of opportunity to reverse or to get the Carnival breeze to come back in 2016 is closing. We have ministers between now and October to negotiate with Carnival to make arrangements to bring the Carnival breeze back to Orchards in 2016. We implore that he does that because the people of Orchards and St. Anne, because it's not just Orchards people who benefit from the tourism trade and cruise shipping in Orchards, it is the parish of St. Anne will suffer and suffer greatly. I cannot overemphasize the importance of renegotiating to get the breeze to come back and even more ships to come to Orchards. Mr. Speaker, why are they leaving? Why are they leaving? It is because of the condition of the port facilities. It is because cruise liners, Carnival and every other cruise liner wants their passengers to have the best on-land experience. And currently, it is not happening. And I say to the minister, it is not your fault, but I'm saying to you, please address it and address it with alacrity. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to community tourism. I'm pleased to see that the Ministry of Tourism is moving on getting in place a community tourism policy and strategy. According to the Ministry, the community tourism vision is, and I quote, an invigorated tourism sector in communities that enriches community quality of life through social, cultural, economic, and environmental benefits, exemplifies sustainable livelihoods, and strengthens Jamaica's national policy values and interests. Mr. Speaker, while our all-inclusive hotels have done very well, and we are absolutely proud of that, we simply cannot ignore the fact that communities have suffered from the lack of interaction with tourists. Whilst we are, of course, mindful of the concerns about crime, safety, and other issues, we must, as a policy priority, shift significant financial and technical resources into building up community tourism. From an economic standpoint, the possibilities are endless, and from an experiential standpoint, it is the way to go. Mr. Speaker, it is time to move Jamaica's tourism beyond sun, sand, and sea. While this is what we are predominantly known for, the global tourism industry is seeing more and more travelers wanting a varied vacation experience. Jamaica's culture is world-renowned. It is time to showcase the cultural, authentic, and indigenous image of Jamaica. It is time to extract the best of our culture for tourists to see upfront and personal. After all, when people go on vacation, they are seeking to enjoy experiences which they would not have at home. It is time for the Jamaican people to see for themselves the importance of tourism. And what better way to have them know this than to get more and more of our visitors outside of walled enclaves and treading through the communities and interacting with our people. Mr. Speaker, we note the concerns, we do. But if we are serious about reaching 4 million stopover visitors, we must focus more energy in community tourism. Picture this, Mr. Speaker. Usain Bolt's, Johan Blake's, or Shelley Ann Fraser Price's childhood communities being developed into tourist attractions. This will boost infrastructure development of the communities and generate local employment. It's done in other areas, so we can do it. Mr. Speaker, I call on the Minister to leave no stone unturned in this endeavor. True success, and frankly, the very survival of this sector is dependent on community tourism. Mr. Speaker, the craft vendors, they are in crisis. Many of them feel cheated and are crying foul, as they believe that there's a deliberate strategy to prevent them from making any sales. Mr. Speaker, a visit to the Harbour Street Craft and Cultural Village in Montego Bay offered an opportunity to hear their cries. These craft vendors have lamented that business is extremely bad and they feel sidelined and marginalized. Mr. Speaker, one of the craft vendors shared that there were days when she would be left in tears as she did not even have bus fare to go home. And another showed a craft item that had gone unsold for the last 35 years. Mr. Speaker, this is, yes, that is antique. No, this is how hard it is for our craft vendors. Mr. Speaker, I moved a private member's motion in Parliament late last year with regards to the state of the craft industry, which sparked vibrant and instructive debate. During the debate, I recommended that the craft industry should be under the direct supervision and control of a single government ministry. Currently, they are managed by various organizations, including the respective parish councils, UDC, and different authorities. Mr. Speaker, I further stated that the island's craft markets were in need of upgrading and refurbishing in order to enhance their aesthetics. I trust that the Minister will deliver on the commitments he has given to this most vital sector. Mr. Speaker, just to say that I don't need to remind the House of the challenges that confronted jet ski operators and some of the gravely unfortunate incidents that have occurred. The Minister has given the jet ski operators in Ochias the go-ahead to resume operations. However, Mr. Speaker, they are finding the US $2,000 a year insurance costs extremely prohibitive. Mr. Speaker, there is a reluctance on the part of insurance companies, and while neither myself nor the Minister can tell them how to run their businesses, there's a reluctance on their part to engage in a system of payment by installments. I'm appealing to the Minister to see if he can intervene and how best he can help to resolve this situation, because we must bear in mind that these operators were out of work during the time of the ban, so they weren't earning any money. This is how they earn their living, and they have had to spend money to become compliant, only now to be met with this $2,000 US insurance. So we ask the Minister to see what he can do. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the former Minister, the member from East Central, St. James, for his sterling work in increasing airlift into Jamaica. Had it not been for this and other timely initiatives on his part, Jamaica would have slipped badly during and following the 2008 global economic crisis. Mr. Speaker, the current Minister is no doubt cognizant of the importance of airlift. It is a difficult area in the tourism sphere and requires hands-on and daily attention. I am encouraged by news of the increased airlift out of the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom and Europe. However, Mr. Speaker, I am seriously concerned about the suspension of non-stop flights from Moscow, Russia to Jamaica. Russia, after all, is a serious growth market, given its expanding middle class and horrid winters. Despite the challenges in Russia, especially in its economy and recent geopolitical events, its potential is still huge. As such, I urge the Minister to work hard at ensuring that service resumes for the upcoming winter tourist season and is sustained going forward. The Russian market is key to the long-term development of a diversified tourism sector. We cannot miss the boat. On another note, Mr. Speaker, I also encourage the Minister to continue to redouble efforts on the Latin American market, where huge growth potential resides. I also encourage the Minister to make a special effort in cornering more of the world's most populous continent, Asia. There, Mr. Speaker, exists a burgeoning middle class stretching from China through to India. Let us seriously explore the tremendous possibilities. Let us work hard at achieving that 4 million stopover visitor. Mr. Speaker, we are a responsible opposition, and we are disturbed by the levels of violence on the periphery of major resort areas. It is always difficult to estimate and measure the precise impact that crime and violence have on the performance of a destination and its tourism product. What we can be sure of, however, is that we are living in the information age where information is readily available to persons at the touch of a button. Mr. Speaker, like any other buying decision, persons considering travel and vacation do engage in research and take multiple factors into consideration. Clearly, the levels of crime and overall safety of a destination would rank highly among them. I do not doubt, Mr. Speaker, that crime does in fact have an impact on the potential of our tourism sector. It is uppermost in the minds of hoteliers, attraction owners, restaurant and store owners, and all other stakeholders. It is incumbent on us to reduce the levels of crime, to enhance the overall safety of our destination, and compensate for negatives such as crime by presenting and highlighting more of our strengths. For example, the natural beauty of our country, our unique culture, and the warmth of our people. Mr. Speaker, I hereby call on the Minister again to practice joined-up governance by strengthening coordination with the Ministry of National Security, the police, the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, and other critical stakeholders in tackling the monster of crime and violence. Mr. Speaker, as we seek to better spread the benefits of the tourism sector, I am pleased to see that the Tourism Economic Linkages Committee, conceptualized by our administration, is benefiting from continuity. Mr. Speaker, Jamaica cannot continue. Mr. Speaker, Jamaica cannot continue to have hoteliers and other tourism interests importing food, furniture, and other goods and services that can be produced and supplied here in Jamaica, and in many cases at competitive prices. Whilst there have been serious concerns about the price, quality, and consistency of supply of local products and services, and while these issues are being addressed, we must still seek to deepen the linkages between the tourism industry and others, especially the manufacturing and agriculture industries. I am disturbed, however, that in seeking to make the linkages hub a reality, the government put the proverbial cart before the horse. The committee was put in place, but the preparatory work, the data gathering effort in particular, that would inform the work of the committee was not completed. As a result, we have a situation where the committee is in place, but the data that would drive and inform their work is not in place. Going forward, I trust that the Economic Linkages Committee will concentrate considerable effort on bridging gaps between demand from the sector and supplies of locally derived goods and services, informing an increasing number of stakeholders of its existence, and promoting the hub as a generator of business opportunities for micro, small, and medium-sized entities. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, the member from South Central St. Catherine, in his sectoral presentation yesterday, spoke to the controversies surrounding the Negril breakwater system. As spokesperson for tourism, I'm seriously concerned about government's plans led by the Planning Institute of Jamaica and the National Environment and Planning Agency to put in place a system that has sparked furious, sustained, and legitimate objections from stakeholders in Negril and other persons here and abroad. It is more than obvious that a major breakdown in the process of consultation occurred here. Whilst cognizant, Mr. Speaker, of the beach erosion challenges in Negril, the breakwater solution being put forward, which has been heavily criticized by experts in the field, is simply unacceptable. Beyond that, Mr. Speaker, the damage that this project will do to Negril from an economic and environmental standpoint is simply too much. It cannot stand. I call on the Minister of Tourism, who happens to be the Member of Parliament for much of Negril, to break his silence and with immediate effect consult with the stakeholders. This problem is not just a Negril problem, it is a national problem. Mr. Speaker, beach nourishment, which is less expensive and environmentally friendly, has been proposed by respected authorities and must be looked into seriously. I look forward to immediate action on this matter. Mr. Speaker, this Negril breakwater disaster, I'm sure, has taught the government one major lesson, and that is the importance of real consultations, not Anansi-like consultations, real consultations with the people. Mr. Speaker, all of Jamaica is aware of the tough economic circumstances. We are also aware of the realities and the issues concerning taxation, waivers, and incentives for the tourism sector. As we adjust, Mr. Speaker, there needs to be frank and open conversation with all stakeholders. We must see to it that whatever is done is simple, fair, and positive in its impact on this critical sector. We must be mindful of the highly competitive nature of the regional tourism industry, and we must all be guided by the need to ensure that Jamaica has a competitive edge if we are serious about expanding the industry. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk a little bit about the Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Tourism Product Development Company. Are we satisfied with the performances of the Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Tourism Product Development Company? Mr. Speaker, whatever the answer is, we cannot negate the simple fact that more and more questions are being raised about both entities. The Tourism Enhancement Act allows for a tourism enhancement fee of US $20 to be charged to incoming airline passengers and US $2 to be charged to cruise passengers. The monies collected are to be paid into a dedicated tourism enhancement fund. The Tourism Master Plan provides a framework in which the TEF will fulfill its mandate of promoting growth and development in the tourism sector, encouraging better management of environmental resources in Jamaica, enhancing the country's overall tourist experience, and providing for the sustainable development of the tourism sector. Mr. Speaker, is the Tourism Enhancement Fund effectively fulfilling its mandate? The state of our resort town still leaves a lot to be desired. Once you come to Orchards and you turn left, you go east of the Jamaica Grand Gate, you really wonder if you're in a resort town, and much could be done there. Mr. Speaker, as for the TPDCO, it is a central agency mandated by the Government of Jamaica to facilitate the maintenance, development, and enhancement of the tourism product. I will not discount some of the good work done, but I am concerned with the way in which TPDCO is being operated. In March, I had tabled a number of questions. They fell off of the question paper, but I'm going to ask them again. I want to ask the Minister whether there has been any significant adjustments in the company's mandate since the current administration took office in January 2012. And the Minister is yet to identify, based on projections in the 2013-2014 expenditure budget, the special projects TPDCO proposed to embark on during the said financial year. Mr. Speaker, the Minister has to update the House as to what portion of TPDCO's special projects budget has been actually used to date.
Member's time for speaking has expired.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the member's time be extended to allow her to complete her presentation.
The question is that the member's time be extended sufficiently for her to complete her presentation. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Ayes have it. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, the Minister is to update the House as to what portion of TPDCO's special projects budget has been actually used to date, and we would like the Minister to outline the rationale or justification by TPDCO, provided by TPDCO in respect of its special projects expenditure to date. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Minister is yet to indicate whether he's satisfied. We would like him to indicate whether he's satisfied with the level of budget absorption and the stewardship of TPDCO's leadership in this regard, because the special projects have not been undertaken, and the reason given is that the implementing agencies have not implemented them, which we find unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, I would like answers to these questions. It is the public's business. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to close, and as I close, I again reiterate the need to set our sights on 4 million stopover visitors per annum. The entire ministry, its agencies, stakeholders, and all of Jamaica must be seized of the importance in achieving this goal. Mr. Speaker, I have a number of critical issues for the Minister to address. Some are easier to address than others. Some, of course, require multi-stakeholder and interministerial coordination and oversight. We look forward to them being addressed. Mr. Speaker, rest assured, if we focus our minds, all is possible. Thank you, and God bless you as we all strive to build a better Jamaica.